Welcome. I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the City Clearlake City Council, Redevelopment Successor Agency, hosting it here at City Hall in Clearlake at 14050 Olympic Drive, Clearlake, California 95422. Today is Thursday, August 24th. It is 6 p.m. And Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Councilmember Overton.
Here.
Councilmember Harris.
Here.
Councilmember Bennett.
Here.
Vice Mayor Sabatier.
Here.
Mayor Purdock.
Here. Councilmember Overton, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. If you would please remain standing for our invocation. Pastor Fiedler, would you please offer that?
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you and we want to say thank you for such a beautiful area that we live in. And we thank you, Lord, for the beauty, the nature, the animals, and all the good things that you have given us here. And Lord, our hearts are also heavy tonight as we remember the Rumfelt family, Lord, the sacrifice that he gave of his life. And Lord, that he was willing to do so when he became an officer. And Lord, we pray for the family because there's no words or things that we can do that can take that hurt away, that they're missing them so much tonight. But Lord, you can give them that peace that passes all understanding that we just can't even explain. And we ask that you give it to that family tonight. And Lord, we just uplift these men and women, these servants, Lord, who have come up to raise up to help Clearlake during this time. Lord, we know that you have come and ordained them for such a time as this, Lord, that you have raised them up to raise Clearlake up. God, we want to see Clearlake be as beautiful on the inside as it is on the outside, and that it just rise up to the potential that it has, Lord. And God, we know that these servants, Lord, that you would give them the wisdom that comes from on high, Lord, to solve the problems that need to be solved. Lord, that they may come together with one mind, one spirit, and that much can be accomplished because of the unity that exists. And we thank you for that in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Mr. Folsom, any changes?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we'd like to ask that item number 10 be moved right after consent and before the public hearing.
Very well. Any other changes?
No other changes.
Council members? Councilmember Harris? Okay. Any member of the public? Seeing none, I'll bring it back. Got a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And it carries unanimously. Next, we have a presentation by our district attorney, Mr. Donald Anderson. Mr. Anderson, if you would.
Good evening. First I want to introduce Rachel Moten. She's a circuit prosecutor for the California District Attorneys Association, which includes part of Lake County. And I'm going to warn everybody first that even though she's little, she's a bulldog. You might want to mess with some prosecutors, but not with her. We're here today to do something kind of good. Usually our positions are, has a negative connotation to it. Tonight we're here to give away money. And this came about back in January 2016, ROS filed a complaint against the Waizitas Resort because of some environmental damage and things that happened that really wasn't being resolved without criminal action being taken against them. So Rachel filed a complaint, and about a year later, in May of this year, we came to a settlement with the owners of Waizitas. And part of the punishment is they had to do 3 years summary probation, 150 hours of community service, and they got fined $5,000. But in addition, they had to give over $15,000 to the Clearlake Fire Department for restitution for putting out the fire. And also, my favorite part is they had to give a donation to charities of my choice in the total sum of $50,000. So, that is thanks to Rachel, because she made the deal. And like I said, bulldog, she was a bulldog. So in choosing the organization, because it was environmental crime we were dealing with, I chose the organizations, talked to a lot of the city officials at the judges' breakfast, and I was looking for organizations that really helped the community. And they were doing good down here. I say down here, I shouldn't say that. Up here, they were doing good. Okay. So some of the requirements, they have to be centered in either the city of Clearlake or in the surrounding areas. Their organizations have to be related to homeless people or feeding the needy. Those other organizations that really help the environment and clean up the city of Clearlake and the lake. So with that, I want to present these checks now, and I would call the organizations to tell them how much if they come up and get their money. The first one is Lake Conservation District, who's receiving $15,000.
Picture time. He does.
All right, thank you.
This organization is St. Helena Hospital for their Hope Rising project, which is to try to deal with and help the homeless population down here in Clear Lake. And accepting this award would be Mayor Russ Burdock, who is part of that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
There you go.
Then the next organization who will be receiving $6,000 is the Citizens Caring for Clear Lake.
Let's do it the right way this time.
How much, John?
Oh, that was $6,000.
6,000. Excellent.
Here we go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Then the next organization who also received $6,000 is the Lake County Vet Connect.
All right, thank you.
Then the next organization, again for $6,000, is the Lower Lake Community Action Committee.
Thank you.
And for $6,000 again would be the Clearlake Senior Center and Joyce Overton.
Hi. Hello.
Ready? Thank you.
And this last organization will be also receiving $6,000. It's a little story I got to tell first. Oh yeah. And I'll tell you first, it's the Lake County Animal Coalition. But before she comes up here, the head of the organization, well, I won't name her by name, but Rita, they have a benefit twice a year. Every single time I go to this benefit, Rita calls me up and tries her best to embarrass me. Which she does a great job of. So I'm going to tell you a little about Rita. She is probably one of the most beautiful, wonderful, caring person I've ever known in my life. And it's a pleasure to know you, Rita. So now you can come up.
He's not gone. You can see right here. Thank you. Thank you.
There you go.
Oh, let me get up here. Well, come on, you guys. Come on up here. You're part of Animal Coalition. Get up here right now. Come on. Come on, even Bob is coming up. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Come on, all you guys. Come on.
Let me get, no, I'm just.
We spay and neuter. And pretty soon we're going to be doing men.
All right, here we go. All right, thank you.
Here's the last thing I have to say. I would love to do this more often. And we only have one stipulation about giving this money out. And they can't go to Las Vegas on it. Other than that, you can do whatever you wish. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Great job. All right, keeping it positive, we're opening up for public comment. Public comment is a time that we ask people to come up and share their thoughts with us on any item that is not on our current agenda for tonight. Excuse me. You can speak for up to 3 minutes on the topic of your choice. We ask that you try to keep it within parameters, keep the profanity out, and for the good of the order. Our first person who submitted a public comment request card is Mr. Bill Shields. He would like to talk to us about PG&E. Come on up, Mr. Shields. Oh, one other thing, please remember we can't answer questions. We can't engage in dialogue. We can just listen to what you have to share with us. Thank you. Go ahead, Bill.
Good evening. I hope everybody's doing fine. Anyway, I was going to ask Don if he had some extra money. All of these people are getting hit with big PG&E bills. I mean, out of sight. And some of them don't know how they're going to make it. You know, I think it's sad that PG&E is taking advantage of all of this hot weather. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shields. Anyone else wishing to address council? This is your time to do that, public comment. Seeing none, I'm going to close public comment and move on to our consent agenda. Do we have any changes to the consent agenda?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Colson. Council members, any changes to the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll open it up for public. Any member of the public wishing to discuss an item that is on our consent agenda, please step forward and address the council. Thank you very much. And then I will close that and bring it back to council for action and approval.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I have a motion by Mr. Harris and a second by Ms. Overton. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Nay? Excuse me, it's unanimous. Moving on to the next item, which is our business, and we will be moving, we're moving item number 10. Consideration for resolution approving from preliminary official statement and bond purchase contract connection to the refinance for refunding of the successor agency long-term bonded indebtedness. And Mr. Folsom, you give us the report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a successor agency item, and I'm going to introduce our Director of Finance, Chris Beckman.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. I'm coming up here because I'm going to hand off the clicker to our presenters this evening. You're sitting in your capacity as members of the successor agency at this point, and this is part of the process we are engaged in to refund, fancy word for refinancing our bonds that were issued in 2006. So I'm going to introduce our team that is helping us through this process. Eric Scriven, Cameron Weiss, and Dennis McGuire, who are going to come up and make a presentation to you regarding the refinancing.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council, and staff. It's always good to come with a good presentation. We're hopeful that we're going to save the agency and the city some money. So it's pretty brief. We're reintroducing that you have an opportunity in front of you, refinancing opportunity. And then we're going to have a quick market update by Dennis McGuire with Piper Jaffray. Piper was selected through an RFQ process and rose to the top and got the assignment. And then Cameron Weiss will stand from Weiss Law Firm and discuss the documents that are before you to be approved tonight and answer any and all questions that you may have. So you've seen this before, the bonds that are outstanding, they're the only bonds by the agency. They're outstanding about $13,730,000 after the debt service is paid on October 1. We expect this transaction to close after October 1. Final maturity is in 2036. Rates are what you see, high 3s to 5%. And we have a very strong market right now, which has continued for quite a long while, but it's still very strong. And we expect to secure good savings, which Dennis will talk about a little bit, and not just the city, but all the tax entities that participate from the residual cash flow of the redevelopment agency will benefit from the savings of the transaction if it goes as we hope it will. So, Dennis?
Good evening, Dennis McGuire with Piper Jaffray. As Eric mentioned, we're the bond underwriter. So what our job is to do is to market the bonds in the public markets and go out and find buyers for the bond based on the amount of demand we get. That will determine kind of where the interest rates are. These bonds will be issued on a taxable basis, meaning the holders of these bonds will be paying income tax on the interest earned. And so with taxable municipal bonds, the interest rate is going to be set really off of two things: where the treasury market is, and then also where demand is for tax allocation bonds. Bonds will be priced off of the spread to the comparable treasury bond. So as Eric mentioned, we are in a very good market in terms of the treasury market. We put together this slide earlier in the week when it was at a 221 interest rate on the 10-year. We're currently at 219. That's lower than earlier this month. We were about 7 basis points higher. It's lower than where we were earlier this year when we were about 25 basis points or 0.25% higher. So again, everything's kind of moving in the right direction. At the same time, for tax allocation bonds, investors have become much more comfortable with tax allocation bonds issued by successor agencies. Successor agencies have been issuing tax allocation bonds post-dissolution for a couple of years now, so investors have gotten very comfortable with that. And so with this good market, what we're estimating right now, and granted this can change because the interest rates won't be set until the date of pricing, but where the market is right now, we're looking at gross savings of about $2.6 million, net present value savings of about $800,000. It's about 5.9% of the refunded bond par amount, and the combination of the lower interest rates as well as going from a cash funded reserve fund to a surety reserve fund is going to lower the average annual debt service by about $137,000. So unless there's any questions as it relates to the market, I'll turn it over to the bond counsel.
Questions? Seeing none?
Having trouble with that. Oh.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. Nice to be here. And so this is a continuation, actually, of a process that you undertook, started to undertake back in March, I believe. Really, there was a prevalence in the market at the time that was uncertain and unstable a little bit as far as the interest rate cycle. So we've stabilized, as you've heard from your financing team, a little bit. So things are looking up. But as far as the documentation, you really undertook a lot of the bulk adoptions and considerations back in that early date. Now, before you this evening is kind of the continuation of that process, which is most of the heavy-duty legals have already been approved. Now we're into the selling aspects. So before you this evening is the bond purchase contract proposed between Piper Jaffray and the successor agency. That contract is a legal agreement that sets forth all the terms that they're willing to buy these bonds at. They're pretty traditional agreements, so really there's not a lot of differentials between one bond purchase contract to another. Really what you're getting is an offer by them to buy in at the interest rates they're going to propose to you on a certain date. So really that's what your municipal advisor, Mr. Scriven, is there. You've retained him to, as well as your staff, to go and see that rate process. And if you're in agreement, staff is in agreement at that time, then the contract gets signed, the bond terms are locked in, and then we move on to the closing process. So that's the bond purchase contract side of it. The preliminary official statement is also a part of the selling process. That's the document that goes to the investors. So what happens with your underwriter is they agree to underwrite these bonds, but they're really the middleman between you and the ultimate investors of these bonds. So the preliminary official statement is really the advertisement, solicitation, if you will, to purchase these securities. So as part of that process, we have to do the anti-fraud work, called due diligence work, kind of go into your history, look into your files, research everything, and ultimately that all goes into that book, the preliminary official statement. That's also your document. We've just been retained to produce it for you. We've been back and forth on it for a few months now, so most of the comments have been made. We do anticipate some comments being made prior to closing. So what you're adopting is the form of these documents tonight. If you pass the resolution, you're really giving your staff, your city manager, finance director, in this case for the successor agency would be executive director and treasurer, autonomy and authority to make those final changes and to accept the bond purchase contract rates if they're advised, if that's in their interest to do so at that time. So you also have before you this evening a continuing disclosure certificate, and really that is also a function of the marketplace nowadays. It's an SEC requirement. SEC has jumped into the foray on disclosure, and really what they want to see is on a continuing basis that each agency is doing its own analysis and providing the marketplace reporting. This has become pretty commonplace. Actually, your original documents, yes, had this as well. It's just been more scrutinized lately, so it's becoming a high priority item. Again, we've been able to produce that back and forth comments to staff several times. So what that is just each year there's an annual requirement to give your audited financial statements to the marketplace, as well as a few other items. They get reposited with a central repository, and everybody's happy. Investors are able to access that and see how the financials are doing. And then the other item on the agenda tonight that you would be considering is the adoption of the policy for continuing disclosure. And this is really something the rating agencies have really wanted to see, especially after the SEC continued scrutiny on these items. So it's really in your best interest to have a policy in place. It just is a tickler file for staff to really remind them, and it's a formal documentation and procedure process. So that's also being considered if you adopt a resolution this evening. Those are I think the highlights on the legal aspects, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Nope. Okay, so you've met most of the team. I would mention and reaffirm that the city staff, Greg and Chris, have been overseeing the project and providing comments and all, keeping us all in line. So the timeline is this: we got approval already from the Department of Finance. Good news. And tonight, you're considering, hopefully, approve the preliminary official statement and the other documents before you. With that in hand, those approvals, we still have some work to do. There's still some more comments and such for that very important investor disclosure document that we'll be making sure is right before it goes out. And we're going to have a rating presentation with Standard & Poor's next week. We're getting all of the ducks in order so that then we can go out with the strongest possible transaction to the marketplace, where Piper Jaffray will do their best to sell it and get as many investors interested so that we can drive the rates down. If all goes well, we're hoping that September 20th is approximately the date that we price the bonds, and that's the day. It's a pretty busy day where we sit down, look at the rates, they look good, they make the offer to purchase, and if Greg and Chris think it's advisable and the savings are sufficient, then we lock that down then, and 2 weeks later, we close the transaction. So we're glad to answer any questions, but that's, I think, in a nutshell what we've got going on.
We got a very detailed report, some nice light reading, preparing us for tonight. Any questions at this point, council? Seeing none, thank you. I would like to open this up for public comment. Anyone wishing to address members of staff, council, or our presenters tonight, this is your chance. Mr. Shields, you'd like to make or ask a question? Please come up and do so.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions about this. What it looks like to me that the city took out a loan on my property and invested it in the stock market as other people's property.
Yeah. Mr. Folsom, would you like to address this? Or would you like, let's answer your question, Mr. Shields. Mr. Folsom, who do you think would be most appropriate to direct that? Very good. Mr. Becknell, would you please address the question?
Okay, so the answer to your question is no, that's not what we did. What we did was we took the property tax, some of the property tax revenue that is paid to the city from property tax owners and used it to borrow money out in the open market and use that money to repay the bonds in the future. That's what we're refinancing. Those funds were used to pay for city projects, infrastructure, roads, buildings, property, and like that. So it's not a loan against your property.
Well, you're talking about my property tax, other people's property tax. And to me, it looks like the city took out a loan on my property. without me authorizing it.
Well, it's not a loan on your property. What we did was the property tax that you pay to the county, a portion of that is paid to the city. And so what we did is that revenue to the city, we pledged to pay for these bonds over time. So it's not a loan against your property. It's a loan that we took out on the revenue that we received from the property tax you would have paid anyway.
And if I could just clarify, it wasn't actually the city that did this, it was the redevelopment agency at the time, which was a separate legal entity.
The city borrowed something like $17 million.
A little less.
Now, what did they do with that $17 million?
Well, there are several things that have been done with it and things that we're continuing to work on. We've acquired some property, we've improved some roads, we've built some buildings. I wasn't here when a lot of that was done, so I'd have to go back and look at the list. But we're continuing to use those funds.
How much money do you have left out of that $17 million?
At this point, we have probably about $7 or $8 million left between the two funds.
You're relying on the stock market.
No, this has nothing to do with the stock market.
Investing in the stock market.
We do not invest in the stock market. It has nothing to do with the stock market.
Well, what that say up there?
It's the bond market, which is not the same thing as the stock market.
But if the stock market collapsed tomorrow,
It's bonds,
where would
the
we
bond
be?
market. different entity.
Well, how much money is this firm charging to do this?
It's a percentage of the revenues, and I don't know what the number is off the top of my head, but it's a small percentage.
Well, before they got $1 million.
I don't know what they got back in 2006.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to address council on this item, please step forward. Seeing none, I will bring it back. Any council member have a question on this or a comment? Vice Mayor.
I do have a quick question. First off, saving money is definitely always in our interest, so I thank you for already bringing this to us. But quickly, I know we do have some projects, many projects actually, that we agreed upon, I think last July for our new fiscal year-end budget that we had agreed upon on how to spend all of the redevelopment funds or the bond money for projects. All those projects at this moment have to be placed on hold until this refinance is complete and the bonds are sold again. So until October 5th?
Not necessarily.
No, it does not affect the spending of those funds at all.
Okay, just wanted to check in on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Do I have a motion to take action?
I would move to approve resolution number SA-2017-06, approving the form of preliminary official statement and bond purchase contract in connection with the refunding of the successor agency's long-term bonded indebtedness and approving certain other matters and official actions related thereto.
A second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Bennett and a second by Mr. Harris. Can we have a roll call vote?
Member Overton?
Aye.
Member Bennett?
Aye.
Member Harris?
Aye.
Vice Chair Sabatier?
Aye.
And Chair Purdock?
Aye. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Appreciate your time coming all the way up.
Pleasure. Thank you.
I like saving money too. That was a lot to read. All right, moving on to item 5 under business, and we're back as city council doing city council business. We have a public hearing to confirm assessments in total of $30,000 for administrative penalties for failure to abate public nuisances in accordance with Clearlake Municipal Code Sections 1-5, 1-9, 10-1.6, 10-1.7, 10-1.9, 10-1.12, 10-2.2b, 10-2.4, 10-2.5, 10-2.6, 10-2.7, 10-2.8, 10-3.1, 10-3.0, or 3.3, 10-5, 10-5.6, resolution number 2017-52. Mr. Folsom, who will be presenting?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to introduce our code enforcement team, and they'll be tag teaming on this one.
Very good. Welcome.
The purpose of this hearing is to consider and act upon any and all protests of proposed assessments and recovery of the cost of administrative penalties for failure to abate public nuisances. Upon consideration of the evidence of testimony, council may grant the protest and revise the resolution to remove the assessments, or deny the protest and confirm the assessments as proposed for, or modify, reduce the amount of assessments and revise the resolution to reflect the modified assessments. Property owners were given notice of the violations and adequate time to voluntarily correct the violations. Property owners failed to abate public nuisances on the said property within the prescribed time. Property owners were given notice of their right to appeal the imposition of administrative penalties. Property owners failed to submit in writing a notice of appeal of administrative penalties within the prescribed time allowed. Attached to the staff report is the proposed resolution confirming assessment, statement of expenses for the proposed assessment, and supporting evidence. Staff recommends that the council confirm all assessments as proposed. Property number 1 is 3965 Mullen Avenue. The owner is Steve and Samantha Kova, and the administrative assessment is $2,500. They are in violation of several CMC codes, and I was the setting officer. The original pictures were captured on 4/5 of 2016. And the current pictures were captured as of today, 8/24/2017.
Thank you very much. Any questions from this point, staff? Very well. I would like to open the public hearing at this time. Anyone wishing to address council on this item, on this property, please step forward. Introduce yourself and who you are. When you get to the podium, please, ma'am. Right up here by the microphone. Thank you very much for coming.
Hi, I'm Samantha Kova.
Okay, and you own this property?
Yes, I do.
Very good.
I'm trying to work on getting it cleaned up, and I'm having yard sale, that's why a lot of stuff is there. And then I'm telling my boyfriend he can't have extra vehicles on the property, but he keeps thinking he put them on the side of the property. And I keep telling him he can't have them, he is working on them. So I'm trying to get it cleaned up, but I'm disabled, I can barely walk. So I'm working on it.
Did you hear the testimony of the officer?
Yeah,
Do you have any questions for that, or?
No.
Okay.
I got my son's name and my mom out for the chat. I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep the house because you guys are taking it back from me. So we're going to try and make arrangements to move somewhere, so it might be a motorhome to move into. And so I've been trying to figure out how to get all the stuff off the property. At the same time, and so I've had the yard sale going with all my furniture out front. A lot of that's furniture in front. There's china hutches and cabinets that I've had for years, and nobody wants them.
Councilmember Overton has a question.
So you were saying that we're going to take it back from you as a finance through the city then?
Yeah, I got a grant, a loan in 2006.
And so have you been trying to work with code enforcement on this and staying in contact with them about what's going on with your property?
No, I thought it was over because I got rid of my son's motorhome and I had it cleaned up, and then people keep, I don't know whose it is, but they keep throwing stuff, they keep going to my backyard and messing shit up, messing stuff up, you know. I need a fence there, really bad.
Any other questions of the witness? Property owner? Thank you very, I have one question for Mr. Bennett.
Who lives on that property?
Me and my son Jeremy and my boyfriend.
And we see your son Jeremy here, but your boyfriend is not present?
No, he's trying to get rid of the boats.
Okay.
So that's why I had to get rid of all of his vehicles.
Thank you. Go ahead. What Councilmember Overton was reminding me of is after tonight, if you're able to expedite the cleanup of the property, you may meet with Mr. Folsom, guy waving his hand, and discuss maybe some mitigation or lessening of the penalties tonight, if that's how the council should move forward. Okay? So it would be right here at City Hall during business hours.
Okay.
If you would like, let's stay here and let's see what happens.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak on this matter for this particular property, please step forward. Seeing none, I'll bring it back. Do we have any further questions of staff, council? Very well. Then shall we move on to item 6?
No, property number 2.
I'm sorry, property number 2. Saw 5.
Property number 2 is 14390 Austin Road. The owner was Laura Bohem, and the penalty was $5,000. However, we just got information this week that it does have a new owner, and we have decided to not assess this evening and give that new owner an opportunity to correct the violations and make the house better.
So you're asking us to scratch item 2 from number 5?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Property number 3 is 15240 Cass Avenue. The owner is Rolando Moya, and the penalty is $2,500. This property we would like to take off as well. We have given the owner an opportunity to merge the 2 lots and avoid the penalty as he has 2 weeks.
Thank you very much. So we're removing item 3.
Property number 4 is 3841 Manchester Avenue. The owner is Luetta Mallard, and the penalty is $2,500. She's in violation of several CMC codes. The original picture was captured on 8/4/2015. The current picture was taken this morning at 8/24/2017.
Thank you. Is there anyone here wanting to speak to council on this item? Is that your presentation, officer?
Yes, sir.
And remind me, this is on location 4?
Yes.
The 3841 Manchester Avenue. If there's anyone here wishing to speak to us about Manchester Avenue, please step forward. Seeing none, I'll bring it back. We can discuss item 5. Location 5.
Property number 5 is 5914 Mohican Place. The owner is Donald McNamara, and the penalty is $2,500. He's in violation of several CMC codes, and I was the citing officer. The original picture was captured on 5/5/2016. And the picture today was 8/24/2017.
Explain what the violation is there.
The violations on this property is it's a vacant parcel, and you're not allowed to have anything on a vacant parcel. So he was asked to remove the structure and the vehicle, and then there's a boat in the background.
Thank you. In wishing to address council on this property being on a vacant place, in wishing to present testimony. Seeing none, I'll bring it back and we can move on. Oh, I apologize. Councilmember Sabatier has a question.
Is that vacant lot connected to any of the adjacent properties that look like they have dwellings on it?
No.
Thank you, officer. Location 6.
Okay, property number 6, 16293 33rd Avenue. The owner is Pale Slatton. Administrative penalty assessment $2,500. There was numerous violations. Actually, I was not the citing officer, Rebecca Sanders was, and then I took the case over.
Okay.
The original pictures were captured on 12/1/2015. This is a vacant parcel with a camper, boat, car. The current pictures were captured 8/24/2017. Go back. They actually removed the car, the camper, and there's just still some miscellaneous things. I think there's a trailer, some tires. It did remove some things.
Any questions? Yes, Councilmember Wood.
Have you been in contact with them at all regarding this property, or have they tried to call you or anything?
No, I haven't. The actual owner is from New Zealand, so I've never got in contact.
Thank you.
Thank you, officer. Anyone wishing to speak to us regarding this property on 33rd Avenue, please step forward. Seeing none, I'll bring it back. Location 7.
Property number 7, 16303 22nd Avenue. Owner is Kevin and Elizabeth Zier. Administrative penalty $2,500. There's numerous CMC codes. I was the citing officer. The original pictures were captured on 11/14/2016. There's a large travel trailer, some other vehicles. Current pictures were captured 8/24/2017. Still, actually, I think there's more vehicles now. And another travel trailer.
Is that a residence or is that a mobile travel trailer?
You know, I don't think it's a residence. I did make contact with the gentleman today, and I told him he needed to clean it up. He said he was the new owner, but as far as the records, it doesn't show that there being a new owner.
All right. Is there anyone present here tonight who would like to discuss or offer testimony on this property on 22nd Avenue? Please step forward. Seeing none, I'll bring it back. Oh, yes, go ahead, Councilman.
When you see the person today that said he was the new owner, did you tell him about the hearing tonight?
Yes, I did, and he asked what time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Officer. Moving on to location 8.
Property number 8, 16116 33rd Avenue. Owner is Sean Passow. Administrative penalty assessment $2,500. There was numerous CMC code violations. I was the citing officer. The original pictures were captured on 12/5/2016. There was broken windows, inoperable vehicle, Current pictures were captured on 8/24/2017. The vehicle is still there. There's still a broken window.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Vice Mayor?
I went by there this weekend and I was very confused, wondering if somebody was working on that property. I saw a Habitat for Humanity truck in front. Do you know anything if there is work being done or looked into to get work done there?
The property owner's mom is here. She did call last week while I was out on training and talked to Chelsea, and they are here to work on it. So, and I've been in contact with her today.
Thank you. Very good. Anyone wishing to offer testimony on this property on 33rd Avenue, please step forward. You can please introduce yourself and your relationship with the property.
I'm Peter Buttle. I'm a family friend who's long-standing, and have lived with Sean some of the times a number of years back. He has a mental problems with post-traumatic shock and schizophrenia. He's not here tonight because he's been staying off his meds and would be very disruptive. If he takes his medicine, then he can act normal, and then he thinks he doesn't need his medicine.
Okay. With regard
Now,
to the property,
on the property, the reason Stephanie is his mother and she has fiduciary control over his welfare money, checks, and Medicare. The first notice of citation was sent to an address where Stephanie used to live on Cobb Mountain. The address didn't exist at the time the registered letter was sent because of the Valley Fire.
I'd like to hear from you next, but let's him speak first.
And then, so the first that Stephanie and I heard about the citation was Sean called a few days ago asking what this notice was he found on his fence. And that's what brought us up here today, because we learned about the hearing and brought some friends to help start what needs to be a really major cleanup of the property, maybe even condemn the whole property if we could find a different place for Sean to live.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anything further? Okay, ma'am, would you like to offer some testimony as well?
Just that I just.
If you could speak into the microphone.
Sure. Like I said, 2 days ago is when I found out about this. I would have taken steps much sooner if I had known. I live in Merced, and like you said, I do pay his bills, his house payment, his utilities and things. I can't get up here every other day. I'm also on Social Security in Merced. I didn't marry Trump or want to come close to it. But I'm asking you to please forego this payment for, it's going to take me a couple weekends to go up there. Today we went and cleared all the grass. I've set up to have a tow truck come take that tow truck, or to take the truck away on Tuesday, because of the holiday. That's as soon as they can do it. And I'll work as fast as I can to get it done.
Okay, and for the record, if I could just ask you to please provide your name.
Oh, yes, I'm Stephanie Peterson.
And your relationship to the property owner, as you're his mother.
I'm his mother, yes.
Any questions, Mr. Harris?
If I could just have you flip back through the pictures real quick here. So I'm assuming that the actual residence is it appears to be like a double-wide mobile home, is that it?
I believe it's a single wide.
Okay, and then the other trailer and that sort of thing were the part of the blight?
What it is the trailer, and whoever put it on there built an add-on to the trailer.
Okay.
Is what it is.
So my only question would be, when was the last time that you actually viewed the property yourself before today?
Just this morning. Well, and before that, I don't know, it's probably been about 6 months since I've been out here last.
Okay. And when did this case first begin?
believe it was December 7th, December of last year.
Okay.
Yes,
That was the notice
December
that
5th,
we received.
2016.
Just making note of the fact that the blight didn't take place in a real short time frame, and it has been here for quite some time.
Well, actually, some of the windows have taken place since my last visit up here. Because he's mentally ill, and there really aren't any services, and, you know, nobody's gonna make you take your meds. So as long as it's on meds, it does good, but then it may not do good if he's off the meds, and right now he's off of them. And I can, you know, get those windows repaired and do the best I can. Like the officer had said, I contacted Habitat for Humanity to see if they could help either put another structure on there or help us to get that one cleaned up.
Thank you.
Any other questions of these witnesses? Thank you. As I mentioned before, we do have a process that's been approved previous meeting by council, that if the fees are assessed tonight, you still may meet with Mr. Folsom following this meeting. Our goal here tonight is to clean the properties up, clean up neighborhoods and to revitalize our neighborhoods. So if you do get those cleaned up and those windows fixed, please meet with Mr. Folsom and we should be able to mitigate some of these fees.
Okay, so after it's fixed, don't meet with him
Correct.
now? Or-
Correct.
Okay.
All right, so stay tuned, let's see what happens.
Can I get his card so I know who to call?
Sure. We'll get that to you before the, before you leave. Okay?
I still have to drive back to Merced, so I'd like to go if I can.
Very well.
You can work on your seat though.
Okay, and I have his card. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak on this particular location on 33rd Avenue, please step forward. Seeing none, I will bring it back. Any other questions? Very good. Moving on to location 9.
Property number 9, 16011 32nd Avenue, Spencer Cyrus. Administrative penalty is $2,500. Numerous CMC violations. I was the citing officer. Original pictures were captured on 3/8/2017. This is the backyard. There's a swimming pool that's been up for quite a while. It's not in use. There's garbage behind the fence. The inoperable truck we did tow under AVA. It's in the right of way. I believe we towed this as well. The current pictures were captured on 8/24/2017. Still some garbage there on the side. Some more garbage here on the, this is the back of the property. That's it.
Anyone wishing to offer testimony on this property on 32nd Avenue, please step forward. Good evening, sir. Please step up, introduce yourself and your relation to the property.
My name is Spencer Cyrus. I'm the owner of the property.
Very good. Welcome, Mr. Cyrus.
How are you guys doing today? I've been through some hard times. My wife died and everything. That's when things just started going down. But I'm here to ask you guys, if you give me like a week or two, I can make a drastic change. Some of the stuff is, the truck's gone right now, and the trailer is in the back. So in the tank right there, someone wants to buy it. And so I'm thinking about selling it, or I will. All I'm here to say is give me a little more time if possible, and I'll make this right.
Okay, well, so just so you're aware of the process, we're already at the hearing.
Yeah.
So we will take action on this tonight. But what, as I've explained to some of the other folks that were here earlier, if you get this cleaned up in a timely fashion, you are welcome to meet with Mr. Folsom, show that the property's been cleaned up, and mitigate any fees that we may levy tonight. I can't speak for the other council members, but that may help you as well. Because all we want to do is get the properties cleaned up.
Yes, I would like it.
I appreciate your help. Thank you for being here tonight. Any questions of our witness, property owner, before he steps back?
And the gentleman out, you seeing?
That good-looking fellow right there with the dark hair? He's the dark hair.
She can work through all. Okay.
Thank you for coming, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak on this particular property on 32nd Avenue, 16011 32nd Avenue? Very well, I'll bring it back for location 10.
Okay, property number 10, 15834 31st Avenue. The owner is Ralph Harsha. Administrative penalty assessment, $5,000. There was numerous CMC violations. I was the citing officer. The original pictures were captured on 1/25/2017. We did red tag the residents. This is inside the living room. More pictures of the living room. Kitchen. One of the bedrooms. I think this was in a shed outside. Some garbage in the back. This is the shed. We also red tagged that the lady was living in. This was a laundry room. Another one of the bedrooms. Oops. Current pictures were taken today. This is the front porch. Mattresses. I believe this was the living room. Part of the kitchen. Backyard, the pile is still there.
Do you know if there's water and power at that location?
I believe there's power, but there's no water.
Any questions of staff? Vice Mayor?
I just wanted to make a comment that I went by that place and spoke with the neighbors in the neighborhood. If there's anything that we can do to try to mitigate the squatters that are going in there. I know the sliding glass door was wide open. If there's anything we can do to help with that neighborhood other than what we're doing here tonight, that would be really appreciated.
We'll put that on our
look
list.
like an open invitation.
We are going to do that on a few properties, and this could be one of them that we can do. And also, it is on our demo list for the grant that we applied for.
Thank you.
Thank you, Officer. Anyone wishing to speak to us about this property on 31st Avenue, please step forward. Seeing that, I'll bring it back. This is the last property on this item. Any questions from staff? Any further deliberation on this item? All right. So I close public hearing. Okay. This time I'd like a motion to close public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion to close and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Carries unanimously. What is your direction? Vice Mayor?
I'm saddened by some of these places that I see. I know some people are struggling, but the neighborhoods struggle more because of what we're seeing here. And I think that we offer a really good remedy in the sense that if you do correct the violations, that the fines can be mitigated and decreased. So I'm in favor of approving all of these properties for the fine assessed.
With the exceptions of 2 and 3?
Exceptions of 2 and 3.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Multiple seconds. I have a motion by Vice Mayor and a second by Mr. Bennett. Can we have a roll call vote?
Councilmember Overton. Councilmember Bennett.
Aye.
Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Sabatier.
Aye.
Mayor Purdock.
Aye. Thank you all very much, and thank you for those who came and offered testimony. Moving on to agenda item number 6, to hear and act upon an abatement order appeal hearing referencing real properties located at 16640 6th Avenue in Clearlake, California, 95422, in accordance with CMC sections 18-9, 110, I'm sorry, 18-9, 110, and 18-9.120, 18-9.130, and 18-10 in its entirety. Is this your case, officer?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Go ahead.
Okay, the purpose of each hearing, consider and act upon any and all appeals of proposed abatement order. Upon consideration of the evidence and testimony, council may grant the appeal and adopt a resolution to allow the cultivation of marijuana, or deny the appeal and adopt a resolution upholding the abatement order for cultivation of marijuana and direct the owner to abate the public nuisance. All legal and required documents were sent via U.S. standard and certified mail, as well as posted on the property. Property owner and/or responsible person filed an appeal in a timely manner. Attached to each staff report are the proposed resolutions confirming or denying said appeal. Staff recommends that council deny each said appeal. Should the council or the appellant wish to address me as deciding officer, I am available and willing to respond to questions. So the address is 16640 6th Avenue. The owner is Dwayne Higgins Jr. The appellant is the same. There was numerous CMC violations, and I was the deciding officer. This is a picture taken on July 10, 2017. This is marijuana on a vacant lot. And I took a current picture today. It's not in here, but it's still the same.
Thank you, officer, for your testimony. Vice Mayor?
I have a question for Mr. Feller.
Yes.
How is water brought to that property?
I have no idea. I didn't, well, you know what, actually, I think there was a water tank there, if I remember right. I don't think it's in the picture, though.
Was there a tank, do you recall, or?
I believe there was.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions of staff? This time I'd like to open it up for public hearing for testimony. Is there anyone wishing to address council? You could come up one at a time. Kind of keeps us from back and forth. If you would please introduce yourself and your relationship to the property.
Yes, I'm Dwayne Giggins, the property owner. I'm also here to appeal.
Very good.
This.
Welcome, Mr. Higgins.
Yes. Okay, I'm here to state that today I'm here as a minister in good standing with the Universal Life Church. I'm under contract with Right Reverend Smiley Jane Harrison, the representative of the Church of Great Faith and Redemption. This grow we got tagged as a medical marijuana grow, and this is a spiritual grow. We have documented it upon many times before this date, and Smiley is here to talk upon on that.
Okay, before you step away, sir, I have a couple of questions or just a comment. We're here to deal with the legality of Clearlake Municipal Code sections and act upon those. So we're aware of that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any other testimony to offer?
No, on the water situation, we have a well.
You have a well?
Yes.
Okay. So would that tank that the officer saw be a holding tank for the well?
Yes, it could be.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
If I could add something,
Yes.
there is no medical marijuana in our CMC codes.
Right.
So I just wanted him to be aware of that.
As the violations?
Yes, there was no.
Correct some assertions that my colleague made. First off,
Could you introduce yourself, sir, and the relationship to the property?
apologize.
That's okay.
I'm Right Reverend Smiley James Harris with the Church of the Greater Faith Redemption.
Welcome, sir.
We, as a church, have been in this county since, officially since 2013. So I'm here to address the breach of our contract that your city has imposed between myself and Mr. Yiggins by posting your notice of abate and having these hearings. At present, and I heard you read these code violations and ordinances, your officer made reference that they don't pertain to medical marijuana. Maybe not. The information I have shows that with regard to California law, constitutional law, and federal law, your ordinances that this officer says do not pertain to medical marijuana also do not pertain to our spiritual growth. According to existing authority, and I don't know even why I have to go through this, I made specifically sent certified letters to your city council, or to Mr. Folsom, your city manager, as such, to prevent this. I'm looking at the wrong document. I'm sorry. I'm a little flustered because I filed this injunction, case number 17CV04204NJB, with the Northern District Court, and apparently you guys haven't been served yet. So I'm a little flustered in that regard. But anyway, what I'm looking for is to address the notice that Mr. CMC 1890708 for to obtain a cultivation permit does not pertain to a church. CMC 18, and I'm not supposed to read right those. This is the notice to abate, right? This is the right one, right?
From here, it looks like it should be, but I can't read it.
So I'm just reading because there's only 4 codes listed here.
Okay.
Okay, and on this hearing form, there appears to be quite a few more, and they're not even the same number. So I'm not at here. Okay, my bad. Okay, they're the same ones. So now, back to what I was saying, and I can't pull them off the top of my head. And I was going to refer to the California Constitution. I was going to refer to the federal Constitution. I was even going to refer to Title 18 of the United States Code to establish that what your guys' action is a violation of our rights under federal law. And I have none of their documentation. I'm sorry, I'm not totally unprepared. Okay, under Article 1, California Constitution, Section 1, of our right to obtaining safety, happiness, privacy. Let me see, Section 4, free exercise and enjoyment of religion. Section 7, equal protection of the laws. And Section 13, right to be secure in a person's houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures. That's the California Constitution. Under federal Constitution, Title 42, United States Code, Section 2000, CCA1, Section 82C, and 2000 CC-4, collectively, they support our religious exercise and prohibit you from enacting any code, ordinance, etc. that infringes upon that right. I myself am standing here in confusion because I have copies of letters that I've sent to your city manager providing for our authority of the church dating back to 2016. Of course, we were at 3061 6th Street at that time, and we moved quite a bit. But our position hasn't changed. Our exercise of religious freedoms hasn't changed. Our position in this community hasn't changed. Our location may have changed. We moved from 3061 6th Street to 3805 Hemlock, where we are now.
With regard to this property?
And we sent notice to your city manager as to that property specifically.
Thank you, sir. Is that your testimony? That's your defense
Well,
as you presented it?
My testimony is
Well, we have other cases to get to.
I understand, sir, I understand. I understand, I apologize for taking up too much of your time.
No, I want to
I
afford you the
did
time
want
you
to make
need.
my point made, and I am the teacher, so I do want to sue you guys.
Thank you for your testimony. Anyone else wishing to speak on this matter, on this property?
I just want to say that.
Yes, Mr. Higgins?
Yes, one time, I just want to say that, he didn't say that, last year he notified the city, on a hemlock where we was growing at. They had notified us back of some, whatever, we contacted them again. They allowed us to grow. We harvested last year, did the same thing this year, and then this year code enforcement came. That's our only discretion. We're trying to be right with the city and afford, and we don't know the discretion last year was okay. I'm not saying okay, but he said it was okay because he approved us. Other people, the neighbors that was there called in, they sent somebody out from the city and told them, that they were notified and whatnot. Nothing ever happened, we harvested. And then this year, we set the guard up, then we have these problems and complaints. So that's where I want to stay before we go.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Any questions? Madam Overton?
Is this on a vacant lot?
Yes, it was.
The lot was required.
She was directing a question to the officer.
Oh.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins.
Sorry. So it's an empty lot with outdoor marijuana grows?
Yes.
Okay. So,
Is there anyone else wishing to offer testimony on this property? Seeing none, I will bring it back to a motion to close public hearing.
Excuse me, sir. I want to apologize.
Let me stay that request. Go ahead, Mr. Harris, come on up.
I want to apologize for my earlier man. I'm not very good at these things, but I'm aware of the city's position with regard to medical marijuana or marijuana in general. I've had quite an adverse history with this city and this county as a result of your policies regarding marijuana as a whole. I currently stand in the Ninth Circuit Court addressing that court based upon this city's current, or rather, the policies that existed from 2015 to 2017. I don't know what your current policy is, but this will give me an opportunity to have a better understanding, because if you guys aren't mindful and act in accordance with the law, yeah. You guys
Thank you,
have a
Mr.
good
Harris.
day.
Very well, seeing no one else wishing to offer testimony, I would like a motion to close the public hearing on this item.
Motion to close.
I have a motion to close by Mr. Harris and a second by Councilwoman Overton. Bring it back to council. Any questions or further deliberation?
I do have some questions. So does that make a difference that they want to say this is a religious thing? Does that make a difference in our ordinance? Is there?
Yeah, no, I think the ordinance still trumps, I understand, the religious liberties argument, but a spiritual grow isn't something that would trump that ordinance.
Because they still, even churches have to follow the ordinances, and they got correct.
That's
That is
I just wanted to make sure before I.
Vice Mayor.
I just wanted to bring up, I actually was curious as to where the actual house of worship is, since I'm sure if the Church of Nazarene wanted to grow, they have a place where they have a home right there, and so that would make it.
It's not a church in Nazarene.
No, I'm just saying as an example, if there's a building on there where people can reside, which maybe was the situation at Hemlock, and maybe that's why the city reacted the way that they reacted in the previous years, but this is a vacant lot. The fencing obviously is not compliant with our fence, and neither is the grow compliant with any part of our ordinance. We allow the possibility of growing, and I think that you did not meet the ability, you did not meet us halfway like we tried to meet you halfway to make it so that you can grow where you could grow. And maybe Hemlock was a different situation, with this being a vacant lot without any home. That's the situation that we see.
I was just wanting to know, and under the pressure of the last time we did.
Public hearing is closed. I apologize.
Just address it to me, so I just want to address that.
Well, we kind of broke protocol. Do you have something else to say?
Yes, I was saying that you said that first you broke him and notified him that you responded. If he had an objection to it, I think that he wrote him a certified letter because, call us, anything like that, versus sending the code enforcement out, versus, because we were communicating with the city, trying to go about it, but not. So that's all I'm just saying, the code enforcement, we already knew what was going on, and these are the people that work on the game parties, So I was just saying, they should have known, and I feel that they wasn't working with us, we said, until we had what we were trying to have. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Any other discussion on this item? And the public hearing and comment is closed. Mr. Harris, do you have a comment?
I guess what I would say about this is if we had an actual house of worship, and that house of worship was making construction efforts or anything else that would not fall under the city municipal codes, that would be an offense as well. Leaving the marijuana out of this. This is an issue that these codes apply to everybody, whether it's religious or non-religious. So just to kind of clarify that concept. That I can't actually respond to you now, sorry, we closed public hearing. So, Steve, I'm going to Mr. Felder now, and I'm saying that if we had a situation where we had, let's say, construction taking place, and it was not permitted construction, we'd be in the same position.
Yes, we would do a stop work order and
Right.
that to follow.
I just want to make sure to clarify that being a religious organization does not resolve all rules that are in place in the city. So, thank you.
Any other comment or questions, staff? Require proposed action, either approving or denying the appeal. Actually, let's take the code enforcement issue first.
Are you looking for a motion?
Yes, I am.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 2017-53, denying the appeal, and for abatement order on real property 16640 6th Avenue, Clearlake, California 95422, in accordance with CMC section as listed.
I have a motion and a second by Councilwoman Overton. May I have a roll call vote?
Councilmember Overton? Aye. Councilmember Harris?
Aye.
Councilmember Bennett?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Sabatier?
Aye.
Mayor Purdock?
Aye. Thank you all very much for your testimony.
Is it weird to copy that? Do I have the time to, when I actually get out there?
Yes, you will.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item number 8, to hear and act upon an abatement order. Seven? I went too far. My apologies. Thanks for keeping me on track. To hear and act upon abatement order appeal hearing referencing real property located at 3912 Fir Avenue, Clearlake, California 95422, in accordance with CMC sections 18-9.110, 18-9.120, 18-9.130, and 18-10 in its entirety. Mr. Philders, is this your case?
Yes, sir. So the address is 3912 Fir Avenue. The owner is Casimir Sanchez. Also, he is the appellant. There's numerous CMC violations. I was the citing officer. This is a picture taken on 7/5/2017. I do not have any current pictures. They weren't put in here. I did take current pictures today, but they weren't put in the file. But there was marijuana still there.
What did you take the picture, sir?
Today.
And what did you see?
The same thing.
Okay, were the points a little taller?
Yes.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Can you go back and look at the pictures? I had missed the pictures.
And to add on this, we also did an abatement warrant last year on this property and abated 105 plants.
Is that the only picture you have?
Yes.
So I went by that property and I had two big concerns. One was the electrical pole that looked like the electricity was still connected. It was leaning over, almost looked like it was about to fall. Not sure if that's something we can take care of. And second, please stop me if I'm not allowed to say this. Every window being covered up with wool makes me wonder what's going on the inside.
Yes. It's kind of hard for me to get inside and to check that out.
Without an abatement warrant or a
Yeah,
inspection warrant?
it just looked very suspicious to me when I came
I'm
by.
not sure if that's
on the
enough
outside.
for us to get an inspection warrant. I'd have to talk to Ryan about that.
Okay.
Maybe if we went and did a abatement warrant on the outside and we can smell it on the inside, maybe.
Well, there is a process by which you could do that.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Councilmember Harris?
Just to clarify, Mr. Felder, the permit was never required,
No.
and the total number of visible plants is over the allowable limit.
Yes.
And is that white fence the property line?
Yes, I believe it is.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to offer testimony on this item? 3912 Fir Avenue. Anyone here tonight? I would open it up for public hearing, but seeing there is no one here to testify, I'll bring it back.
Mr. Jones, I'll sit there and see if anybody from the audience would like to
All right.
testify.
Then I will open it up for public hearing. Anyone wishing to testify, please step forward. I'll bring it back to close. Do I have a motion to close?
Motion to close public hearing.
Second.
A motion to close in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Do we have an action to take?
I'd like to make a motion to deny the appeal and approve resolutions 2017-54, upholding the abatement order for cultivation of marijuana at 3912 Fir Avenue, and direct the owner to abate the public nuisance.
Second.
I have a motion by the Vice Mayor, second by Councilmember Harris. Do you have a roll call vote?
Councilmember Overton. Aye. Councilmember Bennett.
Aye.
Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Sabatier.
Aye.
Mayor Burdock.
Aye. Now moving on to item 8. To hear and act upon the abatement order appeal hearing referencing real property located at 16326 22nd Avenue, Clearlake, California, 95422, in accordance to CMC sections 18-9.110, 18-9.120, 18-9.130, and 18-10 in its entirety. Mr. Felder?
Okay, so it was 16326 22nd Avenue, and the owner was Cesar Gomez Orozco. He's also the appellant. There was numerous CMC violations. I was the citing officer. These pictures were actually taken on 7/25/2017 by Detective Cook. I was with him at the time. We were serving another abatement warrant on the next street over. We have 2 pictures. And that's all I have.
Thank you, officer. This time I'd like to open public hearing on this item for the property located at 16326 22nd Avenue. Anyone wishing to offer testimony at this time, please step forward. Seeing none, I'll bring it back. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close.
I have a motion to close by Councilmember Harris and the second by Councilwoman Overton. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Mr. Harris, do you have an action?
Just a question real quick for Mr. Felder. It looks like you're able to gain access into the grow area there, and I see some chemical tanks, that sort of thing. Was there any kind of chemicals that were found on the property as well?
Not that I know of. Usually when we go back with the abatement warrant, we do seize any tanks and any...
Right, but nothing noted during the
No.
time of the inspection. Thank you.
Your question, do I have an action?
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 2017-56 denying the appeal, 2017-55 denying the appeal.
I have a motion and a second by Councilman Overton. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Overton.
Aye.
Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Bennett.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Sabatier.
Aye.
Mayor Purdue.
Aye. Thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item number 9, to hear and act upon abatement order appeal hearing referencing real property located at 15901 21st Avenue, City of Clear Lake, 95422, in accordance with Clear Lake Municipal Code sections 18-9.110, 18-9.120, 18-9.130, and 18-10 in its entirety. Officer?
Okay, item number 9, 15901 21st Avenue. The owner is Grupo Interversionista, sorry, LLC, and he's also the appellant. There's numerous CMC violations. I was the deciding officer. Looks like there was 2 hoop houses, numerous plants, and they were there today also, and bigger.
Very well. Thank you, officer. Any questions of staff? Seeing none, I'll open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to offer testimony on this property, please step forward. Anyone wishing to testify on the property located at 15901 21st Avenue? This is your time. Thank you very much. Have a motion to close public hearing? Have a motion
Second.
by Councilmember Overton and a second by Councilmember Harris. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Vice Mayor, do you have an action or a question?
I have a question. I know in the previous ordinance we had, it was if you were found to be in violation of our ordinance, you could not grow the following season. Is that still in effect?
Yes, it is.
Do we send out letters to the, because this seems to be a problem area, this 21st Avenue, it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by trees, and inside of that little hill area, wondering if we are planning on maybe sending letters and saying, hey, by the way, you cannot grow this season, we will be watching something, I don't know. Just wondering if that's something that we can proactively try to keep that neighborhood safe from that type of activity again, just because it seems to be a reoccurring theme in that area.
Yes, we're going to do that in the future.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, officer. This time, public hearing on this. I get so confused. Well, thank you for keeping me on track. Then we need to take an action on this. To offer Councilmember Bennett.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2017-56, denying the appeal.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by the Vice Mayor. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Councilmember Overton. Councilmember Bennett.
Aye.
Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Sabatier.
Aye.
Mayor Purdue.
Aye. Now, if I'm not mistaken, we're on item 9. Public hearing to hear and act upon an abatement order hearing referencing real property located at 15901. That's what I thought. Dang. Getting a little fuzzy. Why don't we take a 5-minute break? I can have a glass of water and we'll come back in 5 minutes. Thank you. We are back, we are reconvened, and we are on agenda item number 11, consideration of future commercial cannabis ordinances. Mr. Folsom, this is all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's been a lot of changes in the laws recently. There are some things coming up in 2018 with regard to the state and commercial cannabis licenses. We're trying to get ahead of the curve on that and discuss certain commercial aspects. Does the City of Clear Lake want to allow commercial cannabis type businesses? Do we not want to allow it? We're essentially here right now to kind of get some feedback from you, assuming that you do want to move forward with some type of commercial cannabis ordinances. We'll be working with, we have our marijuana ad hoc committee who we've met with a couple of times. We'll be meeting with the planning commission, and then we'll probably be coming back to the city council for final approval of something. But at this stage of the game, we just want to get some macro level direction from you. Where do you want this to go? Do you want this to go? Should we just end it now, or do you want us to consider certain things? We have been approached by multiple entities regarding starting a cannabis-related business within the city of Clearlake. We feel like there is potential to generate significant revenues to the city through these types of businesses. The Marijuana Ad Hoc Committee has met several times to discuss the potential ordinances. They are generally in favor of allowing commercial cannabis businesses. And like I mentioned, this is kind of to get direction from council as to where you want us at a macro level to go with this. A couple of areas where we'd like to get some direction is first question, conceptually, are you in favor of allowing commercial cannabis within the city? The state allows numerous different licensings. There's nurseries, there's manufacturing, there are various types of manufacturing, there's non-volatile solvents, there's volatile solvents. We currently allow 3 retail dispensaries within the city. We've been approached by other dispensaries that don't want to have any type of walk-in retail, but would deliver to various other counties, and including Lake County. There's commercial cultivation, there are labs, so there's kind of a whole litany of different types of commercial cannabis businesses to be considered. So that's kind of one level of discussion. A second level of discussion is, okay, assuming that you do want to allow those, we currently allow dispensaries in a C4 or C2 with a use permit. Potentially we could have a special overlay district to be created. There's been discussion about continuing it in certain areas of the city, but not other areas of the city. So that's kind of another kind of high-level direction we would want from you. There's also been a recommendation from the ad hoc committee about maybe just allowing 2 in each different type of category. However, in discussions with not Ryan, our city attorney, but one of the other attorneys within his firm, having such restrictions, maybe it might be better to have it based on setbacks, performance standards, to avoid having to have competitions for those 2, and have it more based on, okay, what does the land really allow, how many, and we're not having to make a discretionary selection based on something that might be a little more ambiguous. So that is kind of all I have to present at this time. Just looking for some direction. First of all, do you want us to continue down this path? Do you want to say, no, we don't want to do this? Where are you kind of at this point?
Thank you, Mr. Folsom. For the folks who may not be aware, the Vice Mayor and I sit on the Marijuana Ad Hoc Committee. One of the things that we've been very focused on is looking at the upcoming legislation, the current propositions that have been passed, and how do we fit in that, in those laws, those new laws that will be coming into effect. I think one of the things, you gave a very good report, sir, maybe a little general, but we're looking at zoning, zoning for nursery, zoning for grows, commercial grows, zoning for any of the dispensaries, both walk-ins and delivery dispensaries, and also for any type of manufacturing. So just for council members and for those who wish to maybe speak on this tonight, those are the activities that the ad hoc committee has been undertaking. I would like to thank every member of the ad hoc committees for making it to meetings, to offering up some good conversation and direction. I think we have a very qualified and good group, and I look forward to meeting on this issue more. And we also want to be restrictive, though. We want to make sure that the face of our city isn't changed just by allowing everything, whatever we want to come in. It isn't just about tax revenue, but some good, smart growth. So with that, Vice Mayor, do you have anything to add before we open it up?
Yeah, I had a question because in the committee we did agree to offer for 2 types of licenses, and I wanted to get a little bit more specifics and detail as to why we are being advised to possibly look at it as a setback rather than a number of licenses.
Yeah, that's and we don't have to make that decision now. I think we really want to know more of what the landscape is or what the direction is of the council. But I think as Mr. Golson mentioned, there's a little bit of concern as to how you score the applications. And so the idea is if you have you sort of zone it based on setbacks and criteria, that way it might limit just how many are possible locations. And also then it'll be more the market bearing out as to what the market here can take, as opposed to just saying we want 2 or 3 or whatever the case may be, then you're setting sort of an artificial limit as opposed to letting the free market decide. Though at the same time, you don't want to let the free market have 18 of these things. And so that's why the setbacks and other regulatory provisions would, in essence, limit it because there'll only be so many areas left over. Again, I think that's more of a higher level discussion. We could probably have it in future meetings. The planning commission will hack off on that and then come back to the council at least a couple more times. But that's the general concept.
But I do want to say one thing about the ad hoc committee. So the same committee that brought our previous dispensary ordinance and our new current cultivation ordinance, the residential cultural cultivation ordinance, and I think those have been helping us to get to where we want to be as far as controlling marijuana in our city. Unfortunately, we did just have some properties here who are not applying those rules to their properties. But I think that we have a good, well-rounded team, and I'm happy so far with what we've discussed.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Any questions, staff, at this point? Yes, Councilmember Overton.
So back to the list of licensing, please. Okay, so what consists of, what's the difference between a commercial cultivation and the nurseries? What's going to be the difference there?
Commercial cultivation is going to be where they grow the plant to full term and they then have the flowers and I don't know all the specific details of the growing, but it grows the thing to full term and harvest. Okay. Nurseries are where they just kind of nurture the cuttings and the what they call clones, yes. And then sell those to other commercial cultivators, to dispensaries.
How is that going to be, and is that going to be in a definition then? Because nursery does not mean that, so I mean.
Well, there's a separate license through the state for nurseries for marijuana.
I don't know that, so I'm just asking.
And it's okay, because remember, this is just to offer the staff's guidance, not to write the ordinance tonight.
No, and that's why I'm asking the questions. And the manufacturing is more of using the propane tanks and stuff like that?
Well, propane tanks would be under like volatile solvents. So a volatile solvent is, and I have a definition here, I believe.
Butane, propane.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. It's where they're using something that can be flammable or explode.
Right. The one that we just had blow up and kill a few people there. I know that's what it did.
And if I may interject real quick, Councilmember Overton, as a ad hoc committee, we did try to take that out as a possible license to obtain here in the city, the volatile solvent.
And then delivery, I mean, we're going to let them actually transport this, and what's the amount of transporting that they get to do, and is that something we're going to be able to, I mean, I just feel like now we're saying you can go deliver the drugs. So.
Well, they can already do that.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it's legal to do that under the law.
For how much drugs do they get to deliver?
There's a limit by the state, I believe, but I'd have to have someone else answer that.
We can take public hearing in a minute, sir.
I'm sure we got people in here that can tell me that question. Okay, that's my questions.
Thank you. Any other questions before I open it up? Councilmember Harris?
Yeah, I'd say that obviously I mean, as we just saw, the marijuana growing is here to stay, and it's going to be a continued issue if we've gone on the path of fighting it. I think working with people who are respectful and responsible with the product provides a safer product for the community who partakes in that product. So there's another aspect to that that people are obtaining this product, and if they're obtaining it from just anybody, there's the potential hazards involved in that. If we have a regulated few who are participating in a commercial manner that could potentially benefit our community in a financial way, it also provides jobs in our community. I think that's honestly a step in the right direction. But I think the delivery aspect of it is definitely something that needs to be looked at, because that's a trend with this particular product, delivering it. And obviously, if that's something it's going to fall in line with everywhere else in the state of California. And in addition to that, we have the nurseries. The defining difference in the nurseries, I know from the grape industry. For example, a grapevine nursery is just that. They just have all the starts. So they're set up specifically for that, for starting all those. And yeah, I don't see anything wrong with the idea of having these different aspects of it in a beneficial commercial way. But I think we should try to stick towards the idea of having working with people who are local, instead of having people from outside of our community bringing it in. I would much prefer to work with our local community and to provide benefit directly to our local community. So that's my feelings on it.
Thank you.
I just wanted to elaborate real quick on labs, just because I see labs and it kind of comes out looking scary a little bit. Every harvested bud needs to be tested in a lab in order to be approved to be sold to the public. And so since it has to go through a lab, as an ad hoc committee, we talked about how we can benefit from having a lab here rather than sending it out of county, where we would lose out on the potential benefit and revenue of having a lab.
I don't question the lab at all. I mean, I know that's the process too. I do question the delivery.
We have someone here who might address
Well,
that.
that's what I was hoping that maybe somebody here might be able to answer that question.
He was bouncing in the seat a couple minutes ago. Comment? Question? Thanks, sir. This time I'd like to open it up to public comment. Take a number, step to the right, form an orderly line, and we'll get to you.
Good
Please
evening.
introduce yourself and your relationship to the item.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Eric Slower. I run a company called Fume. We're a cannabis company, delivery company, among other things. I first want to compliment the city on the process you're going through. It's thoughtful. Your staff has been working hard on this. The ad hoc committee, I sat in 2 of their meetings, really thoughtful, thorough conversations. I think the direction of going in a way where you mirror the state licensing is really smart. Some cities are creating their own, which creates real confusion. You know, how do you apply for a state license with a local license that's defined differently? So I think the fact that the committee recommended mirroring the state license really makes sense. And I'd like to direct some questions to some of your questions about delivery. These delivery depots allow no retail customers to walk in. They're a place where wholesale product arrives. The building is unmarked, doesn't have to have any signage that says what it's doing. It's behind fences. Everything occurs inside the building. The wholesale product arrives, it's packed in small containers. Currently, the state's law, starting in January, will allow a maximum of $3,000 worth of merchandise, retail merchandise, in a given car. Some cities have been making it a higher number before the state law goes into effect in January. I think some cities say 3,000 to 5,000 range, but nobody allows unlimited amount of cannabis in these individual vehicles. So the driver comes, picks up their box of about $3,000 worth of retail product. They drive to the zip code that they're going to be working in that day. And our partner Ease is a technology system, just like Uber, where the customer will punch in their order, their credit card's in, they're already signed up with their driver's license and their medical referral in the system. The driver will get the order, go directly to that location. They're already in the zip code. They will have a picture on their phone of the person they're delivering to. So before they get out of the car, if the person's on the sidewalk or when the person opens the door, they see that it's the person who's signed up with their driver's license and is paid, and a small bag of product is given them and the driver drives off. Ease, our partner, has a whole set of security standards put in place for safety, because that is a real concern for our drivers. We want them to be safe. They're in unmarked cars. They're driving all over the place, so there's no way for anybody to really know where they've come from and follow them. I've already met with your acting chief to lay out our safety procedures, and so there's procedures for the actual depot with cameras and fencing, and then procedures for the drivers as well. I don't believe Ease has had a single driver held up in the time they've been operating. They deliver almost $2 or $3 million worth of merchandise a month in San Francisco alone, and they operate in about 10 or 15 different cities. Turning more generally to the ordinance, we sent in both Chris Jennings and Roy Harris and I have been attending the meetings and sent in a recommended set of kind of ordinance standards as a starting point that were based on what we heard at the ad hoc committee meeting, and I encourage you to look over them and see what we're suggesting. But fundamentally, it meets with everything that City Manager Folsom has already said, but we emphasize that outdoor or greenhouse grows need to be east of 53, that indoor grows can be in the C4 districts as well as east of the highway, so there's a couple of C4s that are west of 53. We recommend that you allow 2 of these delivery-only dispensaries in addition to the 3 existing retail dispensaries. And then there's a bunch of other details. We've had some experience working with other cities writing these ordinances, and we're happy to work with you to help you fine-tune that as you get through the process. But we encourage you to allow this, because the main thing, kind of referring to what Councilmember Harris was talking about, is by legalizing it, by putting clear ordinances in place, you're going to bring it out of the dark. You're going to end these kind of illegal grows, not overnight. There's going to be people who are still breaking the law for a while. But the more you make it legal, the more you license it, the more serious businesses will come in and establish them under your regulations, and you won't be enforcing these illegal grows as much. So it's the direction the state's going in, and I think that going with the state will lead to both revenue and job creation here in Clearlake, which is what we like to do. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have as you go along.
Councilmember Overton has a question for you, sir.
So on the delivery, you deliver to houses, you deliver to, so you're basically delivering, home delivery.
Basically, they have to give a street address, so it could be to a commercial establishment, I suppose. They could conceivably be at a restaurant and order it there if the restaurant doesn't complain. But 99% of them are to homes.
So I'm just curious, why are we delivering to them? If we have dispensaries that dispenser, why do we deliver? What's the purpose of that?
It's a good question. I think there's 3 answers I give. One is it's just the way the world is going. We all expect things to be delivered, whether it's our books or our whatever you buy from Amazon. I think there's just a cultural change where people expect things to be delivered to their homes. That's number one. We're only doing medical, and so there are a lot of our clients who are patients who have illnesses, and it's just a lot easier for them to have it delivered to their home. And then 3, I think there's just people who prefer the privacy of having it delivered to their home rather than going into a public place to buy cannabis.
And if I can clarify something, the delivery is not limited to the city of Clearlake. The delivery is to multiple counties surrounding Clearlake.
Yeah, and as the law stands today, if we are allowed to have our delivery dispensary here, this is where the order occurs, this is where the sales occurs, so you get all the sales tax and any excise tax you apply, not the locale where it's being delivered. So there's a real economic advantage for tax standpoint, but also it's our intention to hire ideally 100% of our employees from Clearlake and its surrounding areas. Additionally, we believe in training programs where we can help folks who maybe been formerly incarcerated or homeless or otherwise had trouble finding jobs. We created a training program to bring them into our system so that we can employ relatively hard to employ folks in the past, which is a great societal benefit, we believe.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir. Good evening, sir. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
I'm Roy Harris. I'm with Bill Country Growers. I worked with Eric on the proposal. I just want to add one point to the delivery aspect. I also do a delivery service, so we deliver retail as well. But much of my business is actually between the cultivator and the dispenser. So there's going to be an aspect. The product has to move. The product has to move, whether it's from the cultivator to the dispensary to the end user, whatever it may be. Someone's going to have to be licensed for that activity, and I think we've separated some of that for wholesale or distribution as kind of the separation between retail delivery. But ultimately, it's kind of the same activity. So, but other than that, I just wanted to kind of pretty much everything that Eric, that I'm in agreement with that, but just with that clarification.
Thank you very much.
Can you explain how the nurseries work?
Yeah, so that's another aspect. I should mention that too. I own a chain of hydroponic and organic garden supply stores, and that's where I've been looking at that nursery license as an opportunity because it goes right in line with I'm selling the products. I'm selling the soil, the nutrients, and all that. Why not sell the plants as well? Just like a nursery owner, because if you're planting your Japanese maples or anything else, you want all those things in one place. So the nursery, essentially very much like a commercial cultivation, except like you said, you're not producing the final flowers. We're not taking the plant all the way to production to produce a product. We're taking care of the plant to sell cuttings or sometimes maybe larger full plants for the cultivator to finish out. So, whether it be, and I kind of suggested something between, I think we were talking about wholesale cultivation, which would be exclusively selling to licensed cultivators and commercial farms. I personally would like to see something in between, maybe where I had the full, commercial nursery, but it would maybe be allowed to sell 6 plants or limited plants to people with the residential permits. So anything in between that. But basically, where it comes down to a nursery is selling plants. You're not selling the final product, you're not making the fruit or the flower, you're selling the living plant, or the seeds, or basically maintaining genetics of the plant.
And again, primarily, I would say most of your customers are going to be probably outside of the city of Clearlake.
Yes, and as with the delivery as well. Again, the license would be held here, all the tax revenue would come here. But again, if I have someone in Yolo County that needs to set up a commercial acre that's going to buy 700 starts, they would buy that here, and we would deliver that. And again, a lot of these licenses kind of overlap. Like we kind of talked about, there's like 17 or 18 different licenses that are being passed out to the state. You may be able to issue just one license that covers 3 or 4 licenses with the state that overlaps that area. For example, if I have a delivery service, we don't have to make a distinction between delivering wholesale and delivering retail. But the state, that would be 2 separate licenses. So that would be, again, when I go to the state, that would be for me to determine which license I would go for in that circumstance.
Thank you. Any questions of this? Thank you very much.
Okay.
Anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Yes, sir.
Hi. My name is Howard Levin. I own a property called Olympic Plaza. It's by Four Corners. I think you all know where it is. It's right down the street. I've been approached by some very fine people, including these 2 gentlemen, for space in that building. And so I've been paying attention to what's going on. I want you to know that we've been working on different security. If this proposal goes through, that we want to make it highly secure, and that we're willing to work with the police department in any way we can to monitor the property. I think it's a great location because it's just right down the street, easily accessible, and we are, if the city is permitting, we would like to have a marijuana testing facility in there, so that we can guarantee that what's being produced is safe for patients.
So just for this topic, and to stay on topic, not get it too far in the weeds.
Okay.
You're in support of us moving forward with looking at commercial aspects of growing.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And one other thing, and I know it's real early, but just looking, I thought it was a little unclear as far as the medical cultivation. It said C4 in the earlier proposal I saw, but it wasn't clear that it was east or could be allowed east or west of Highway 53. So I would suggest that it should be open to either side because there is really no reason not to have it in my location because there is no odor involved.
Yeah, again, we're just looking at
I know,
a broad scope at this point.
I know, sir.
But if we move forward, I think that's absolutely something our planning commission will be looking at. With zoning issues. Thank you. Do you have a question, Mr. Harrison?
Yeah. So just to clarify, when you were saying testing, you're talking about like a lab?
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Right.
A couple different ways of looking at testing.
Right.
So, yeah, okay, thank you.
If you could introduce yourself, sir.
Of course, Chris Jennings, part of the ad hoc committee. Just want to clarify a few things when we're talking about the reason why I went from potentially 2 license types to multiple license types with the setbacks and things of that nature was the issue. I'm on the county's advisory committee as well. One of the biggest issues that we've been having sitting with the lawyer is something being subjective. So the problem is you tell 20 people they need to do something, they go and do those steps and do everything, and then they come to say, where's my license? And then their license isn't granted to them because it's limited. So that's part of the reason why we're exploring doing maybe setbacks, things of that nature, so that way you don't have a subjective issue and potential lawsuit type issues like that. I'm very much in support of everything. I don't think delivery is a bad thing. Your dispensaries are already allowed in delivery now. You're just fine-tuning it where it's like you just do delivery only. Using C4 properties already established for indoor growing is a great way to get your guys' pre-existing buildings that are probably pretty much out of code the way they sit up to code. You're looking at firewall rated sprinkler systems. Everything needs to be done according to a state level to have these things done. And yeah, pretty much it. I'm in favor. We should definitely move forward with this. There's a lot of money to be made, not just in the business owners' pockets, but in the city's pocket as well. We have a lot of good apples wanting to do the right thing.
Thanks, sir. Any questions of this gentleman? No, thank you. Anyone else wishing to address council on this item? Please step forward. Seeing none, I'll bring it back. Any other questions of staff? Councilmember Bennett.
Just a few comments, and I apologize for my voice. The smoke outside is not helping my asthma and my throat. We've come a long way from when I was a young officer and sent a guy away to state prison for having marijuana seeds on the floorboard of his car back in the mid-60s. I don't like marijuana. I don't like it at all. I think it's a dumbing down of our nation, of our society. However, the reality is that it's legal now in the state of California. It probably will be in our country. It is in other states. And we have to be realistic about that. It doesn't do any good for somebody like myself or somebody of my generation or even younger generations to beat their head against the wall. So if this is going to be done, it needs to be done in the right way. To one, protect our community and make sure it's done in the right way so that the wrong elements do not control it within our community. And secondly, to benefit our community financially. One of our city's strategic goals within the strategic plan is to ensure fiscal sustainability of the city. And it's not a gold mine, but it is a resource of funds to our city. So I think the ad hoc committee needs to be very conscious of the fact that our community needs to be, number one, protected. I voted against the ordinance that came before us only on one subject that put our city in danger, put our community people in danger. And I still feel that way very strongly. So I don't want to see that happen again. If I see it again, I will be more forceful than I was at that time for what good it may or may not do. So I will probably lean toward supporting this if it's done in the right way. The gentlemen, for the most part, that addressed us tonight are in it for the money. I understand that. A lot of money. And good for you. But we're here to protect our community first of all. As far as the lab goes, I read an article just, and I'm going to cut this short in a second, just within the last week or so, that some of the marijuana that's being distributed or dispensed in Colorado is contaminated. It is not right, and it's harming people that are using it. So we need something that will protect the people that are consuming it. And so if that's what we're talking about on these labs, to make sure it's pure, there's no contaminants in it, that's the way it goes. So that's what this ad hoc committee needs to be looking at. Protecting our community and protecting our city. That's my 2 minutes.
Thank you. Councilmember Overton?
Okay, so speaking of like the labs, is when these labs go in in these situations with all these different, say we put them all in, do they all have to have their marijuana tested before they go out on the market? Is that how it's going to work? Is that
Yeah, I
how the
believe that's
law
part of
reads?
the new laws, that
Okay.
everything is going to have to be tested.
Okay, so.
So it's got to go somewhere to be
Right.
tested.
So let's say we have a lab here, then maybe other areas would use our labs because they don't have a lab, okay? And then we get a portion, or we're doing something there to get that. So, okay. And and I'm all for everybody making money and everything. I'm just really, to me, it's just, I just feel like now we got this and we're going to open up a lot. I was just telling him, I was like, well, I want to do opiate, and I think I'm going to create a religion that says it's all legal. That's my thing. I mean, it's like, we just keep going. I just
As you saw earlier, we denied the religious part.
But I want to be really careful that I don't want our facade on our main roads. This is where I'm really critical at as far as where we put them out. I think, our green belt, I don't think I want any more on where they're that visual. And I think we want to keep our tourism. Now, unless we're going to say marijuana is going to be our tourism and we're going to open up all the, lounges for them and everything, and that's going to be what we're going to become, and that's what you guys want to become. Now let me know, because I'll be moving. So, because that's not what I want to become. I want to stay a family-oriented facade out here where people can still go to our parks and drive down the road, and we have the tourism feeling and the family feeling, not the marijuana feeling. So that's where my biggest concern really is, and of course the use of propane in these facilities. So, I'm not saying I'm willing to look at it all. I'm open-minded to it, because I know it is just what it is. But there are some concerns, very, very concerns that I have with this safety and the facade that we put out in our community.
Understood. And just maybe to offer this, those were very spirited conversations, and we're not alone from the Yes, Vice Mayor.
And just to add real quick also, we do have interim Chief Selly as well as Sergeant Snyder, and I believe at one point we had Sergeant Hobbs, who was also involved in the ad hoc committee to ensure that we are looking at the safety of our community. And I don't think anybody on the ad hoc committee was disagreeing with keeping the community first in our minds.
And the fire chief has been invited as well.
That's right. I wanted to ask a quick question. I think that if we are, and I'm going to separate between the delivery and the retail dispensary. If we're going to have a retail, I think that hiding retail is not necessarily the biggest benefit to us. And I see here that it says the committee has suggested keeping cannabis-related businesses on the east side of Highway 53 and grandfathering those already in their current locations. But I still think that retail for cannabis should still belong within a retail commercial district to ensure what's the purpose of creating it if we're not going to necessarily put it in a place where we're going to benefit from it in revenue and sales. So I would suggest that retail is retail just like any commercial, and the rest of it, the cultivation, the processing, and everything else, definitely and specifically zone locations. But to me, retail should be in a place where it can be found so that people can go ahead and purchase what it is that they're looking for. And at that point, we can make sure that those businesses succeed, and we can make sure that we also take in the revenue.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councilmember Harris?
Yeah, I think one more comment regarding the visibility of it. I think that if it's done properly and cleanly, I think that would be the key component for me. If there was, if we see something that is very presentable, and I've seen this, I travel all over, and I see dispensaries that are very clean and well kept and well received, and then there are some that are tacky. And I think that's any kind of business. It really has to do with what you do on your facade on the front of the building, that sort of thing. So I think that as long as it fell into some design criteria, that might be something for the ad hoc committee to talk about. If it is located on a main thoroughfare, that it's going to fall into a certain signage criteria and that sort of thing. I think we already have a lot of that in place, but I'm just saying that I think that in general, that would be my biggest concern, is that it's very presentable to the community. If it's located on a main thoroughfare, we already have some that are. So I don't know that it would make a huge difference as long as it was well kept and clean. That's my personal opinion on that.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Mr. Folsom, if this was approved and we move forward to fruition, my understanding there would be a licensing requirement and have to meet all the zoning standards and everything else. And that would include some direction on the building design and all that, which would come from the city
Right.
staff.
Yeah, we'll be looking at various things, whether we go with use permit direction, whether we go development agreement direction, so there's various ways that we can look at it.
And
That was my question.
I thought, yeah, I thought that might be lingering out there. Well, my peers, I would like to ask staff to move forward with this. I think that's the direction that we should go. This is coming, whether you're for it or against it. I agree with Nick. And I remember when seeds were a felony. But those days have passed, and we can either move along with it or be run over by it. And I think we need to move smartly. I couldn't agree more with Councilmember Bennett. We need to follow our direction as far as our strategic plan. But we do want a cleaner, safer city. And by taking this, as a viable new business, a business that will employ some of our local folks, it's time to move forward. So with that, what's our direction for staff?
So what are you looking to do? All of it? I mean, like, look at all of it, bring something back to us?
Yeah, at this point, I'm kind of looking, I mean,
Stages?
it sounds like everyone is giving me a consensus to move forward on one or more ordinances regarding this. I just want to know, I didn't want to spend a lot of staff time, attorney time, if the will of the council was no, we're not interested at all.
So we either, the laws are coming down from the state, and we're pretty sure what those are going to be in place, or is there going to be some questions still on the state laws?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're still evolving. I think those sort of 5 categories are here to stay. It's more the process of how you get that permit through the state that's kind of changed a little bit. There's, a new law that's blended both the recreational and medicinal licensing into one. But I think from our perspective, I think the law is fairly solid that this is going to be legal. So I think we'll probably draft an ordinance that incorporates, some allowance of all 5 of those categories. If the planning commission feels that maybe one or more of these should be limited, then that's what will come to the council. And the council will have that opportunity when we have that draft before you, whether you want to massage it a little bit or adopt it in whole, or maybe have it start over a little bit, because it'll give you some time in the ad hoc chance to.
I was going to say, the ad hoc, you're going to be working with the ad hoc committee on this.
That's my impression.
The whole thing, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
we are trying to move this along as fast as we can. There is benefit to companies to be established prior to the end of this calendar year. They will be getting priority in the processing of state licensing.
And I'm assuming there'll be some benefits to us if we get those companies to be here first before everybody else.
I don't really intend to do this unless there's benefits to the city.
It wouldn't be pretty.
I'm game to bring me something back. I mean, I know it's going to have to happen, but I'm not happy about it.
Thank you, Councilman. Mr. Bennett?
That's it.
You're good?
I'm good.
Vice Mayor, good?
Yeah, the only thing I'd say is that, it sounds like we definitely have consensus here. I'd like to see us move forward swiftly so that we can stay ahead of the curve and we can be dynamic in this regard. So if we can have something brought back to us sooner, then we can make decisions on it sooner.
Mr. Folsom's timeline will accommodate that.
Awesome.
So we're here tonight.
That's all I'm after, thanks.
And you know my feelings as well. We need to move forward and look at every aspect.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council.
Moving on to item 12, consideration of second amendment to the employee services agreement for our city manager, Rick Folsom. Mr. Jones, you'll be preparing. Are you prepared to report for this?
I am, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I wanted to bring this forward. So in light of a recent positive performance evaluation of the city manager, the council is here to entertain an amendment to his contract. The amendment would incorporate 3 basic, all of the terms would remain the same other than an extension of the term for 3 additional years, which would take it to June of 2021. It would increase his salary by approximately 12.5%. And we provided some clarifying language in there regarding the car allowance, so it was more clear as to what is reimbursable. So those are the three main points. This report is in compliance with the new law SB 1436, which states that cities must provide a summary oral report on executive compensations before the council acts on it. If there's any particular questions, I'm happy to answer those, but the amendment is only about 2 pages long, which modifies the existing contract.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Any questions, Mr. Jones, before I open it up? Very good. I'd like to open this up for public comment. Anyone wishing to speak or address council on this item, please step forward. Yes, ma'am?
I have.
If you could step up to the podium, please, and introduce yourself.
This isn't on topic.
Well, it needs to be on topic, or you'd be...
Well, this is very important. There's a leak at the senior center. The water is running everywhere.
Okay.
In the gardens. I'm Christy Barnes.
Thank you for that emergency notification.
Thank you.
You need to excuse yourself?
I probably do, and I think we're okay. I think your microphone.
Any other comments on this item? Since I don't need to call point of order on the last one. Very well, I'm going to close public comment. What is your directions?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion, approve Second Amendment to Employment Services Agreement for City Manager Gray Folsom.
Second?
I have a motion and a second by Councilmember Harris. We could have a roll call vote.
Councilmember Overton.
Aye.
Councilmember Bennett.
Aye.
Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Sabatier.
Aye.
Mayor Purdock.
Aye.
How good do you get to stay?
Thank you, council.
You're very welcome. Thank you for your hard work. Appreciate it. Moving on to the next item. Item 13. To discuss and provide direction to the League of Cities Delegates, you and I, Councilmember Overton, for the upcoming League of Cities annual conference in Sacramento. Ms. Swanson is giving this report.
Yes, she is, Mr. Mayor.
If you would please.
Honorable Mayor and council members, the League of California Cities annual conference is being held next month in Sacramento. Each year at the conference, the League has a General Assembly and business meeting. At this meeting, various policy resolutions are presented to the membership and voted on by the city delegates. Last month, the council appointed Mayor Purdock as the delegate and Councilmember Overton as the alternate. Tonight you have before you 2 resolutions which will be presented at the conference for consideration by the membership. Both resolutions were recommended for action by the League's Public Safety Policy Committee. Resolution number 1 asks for support of legislative changes related to changes in criminal justice stemming from AB 109, Prop 47, and Prop 57. It will direct League staff to consider creating a task force with other organizations and jointly commission a report on the unintended negative impacts of recent and future criminal law. It will also promote an amendment to AB 109 to change the criteria justifying the release of nonviolent, non-serious, non-sex offender inmates to include their total criminal and mental history instead of only their latest criminal conviction. It will advocate changes to the California Constitution to define violent offenses, which have been changed because of 109. And further, it asks the state to improve criminal tracking platforms and encourages the collection of data on post-release community supervision offenders. Resolution number 2 addresses emergency service levels and clarification of the definition of local control and determination of what service levels are provided by the local government body. Government Code Section 38611, which gives general law cities the ability to establish fire departments, was last amended in 1957. This does not apply to Clearlake because the city is within the boundaries of an established fire protection district, and therefore the city does not have jurisdiction over the fire protection district. However, the council can still choose to take a position on this resolution and give authority to Mayor Purdock to vote on this item at the meeting. According to the Public Safety Policy Committee, Government Code Section 38611 requires further definition for general law and charter cities in determining service levels for the delivery of emergency services to commensurate with local government body resources. The resolution asks for the support of amending the Government Code section to allow the chief of the fire department to make the determination of required service levels and make recommendations based on community expectations, risk reduction strategies, and available resources. That is my report. I can answer questions if you have them.
Thank you, Ms. Swanson. Just on that point, I'd like to commend our representative at the League of Cities. Tim has worked very hard, and he allowed me to chew on his ear a lot as I sit on the Public Safety Committee. And realignment, SB 109, 54, and the like have had significant impacts on our city and crime rates, and has been a tremendous concern. And I am very appreciative for their listening to us and in bringing this forward. And with that, I would encourage you allowing me to move forward on this in support of this movement of the League of Cities.
I'm definitely for supporting this. I think this League's very good about making sure that we support the things that support all cities. So.
And keeping us safe. I'd like to open this up for public comment. Anyone wishing to address council on this item, please feel free to step forward. Seeing none, I'll bring it back. Vice Mayor, you have a question?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the first one, we've been hearing it day in and day out of the struggle that this creates for our police department, and we were happy to see that we didn't grow in crime like the rest of California did. And I think we were lucky in the sense that we have a good department that's been taking care of us, but the hardships are going to continue unless we face it. So absolutely the first resolution, full support. The second resolution, I have some concerns. If we're asking for a clarification of local control, which way is it going to go? Is it going to give us more local control, or is it going to give us less because it's asking the governor to clarify rather than us offering a specific clarification? I'm more curious than I am concerned. So my support there is a lot less than the first resolution.
If I can set your mind at ease, remember that these are recommendations that are brought forth by the Public Safety Committee, which is made up of fellow council members, chiefs of police, fire chiefs, and the like. And this is their request of us to move forward and approach the government. So it would give us more control. Do I have your support?
You do. I've got mine.
Thank you all very much.
Let me ask one thing. Can I do my report first and then get out and get the water there?
Do you mind, Mr. Folsom?
Go right ahead.
We'll jump things out of sequence. Mr. Folsom will give his report last.
Only because I have a few things I want to tell people. Today they came to do the lights at the community center. What a difference. I can see in my office and my staff can see in our office, and the hallways are bright and beautiful. Those lights are just wonderful. So I was happy to see they just
Thanks,
popped up.
Mr. Edison, Mr. Franklin. We have lights.
So, actually, it was a company that came through the PG&E, I think, for to redo the lights, to put in the fluorescent lights. It was the PG&E grant.
Good.
So, the painting day went wonderful. Bruno was there with the TV on his head that Greg forgot to put the picture up.
It's because I was holding the other end.
So we had at Dennis House, had about 25 people there, and then a few people from the community. Robert Price was there, several of my seniors were there. We need to do another painting day. We'd like to do one on Sunday this time, and start at 9 o'clock, so please spread the word, have everybody, I just have a pen in the office.
Which Sunday?
This coming Sunday, because we want to get it done before at least the basics and some touch-up in a straight line before the Wednesday. So Sunday, if anybody can come, it's, we're going to start at 9 o'clock and try to get at least what we have done straight and all tidied up. So that's pretty much all for my report. Thank you very much for guys coming.
So a call for action. Anyone out there watching TV or sitting in our audience, please come down to our community center on Sunday at what time?
9 o'clock.
Paintbrush in hand at 9 o'clock.
And we got the paintbrushes, we got the
If you don't have a
rollers.
paintbrush, we'll give you one. And help council go over to paint the community center.
And I really want to thank Adventist South because, I mean.
It was a good picture you guys put out.
Without them, I
Good
mean, we
press
would
release.
not have gotten much done, but they really brought a good crew there and they did a lot of work. And I'm really personally, we got more done than I thought we were going to, so I was very, very happy. But now we need to finish off those touches, at least for our State of the City meeting. I like to have a little nicer, a little straighter line. And sorry, but I have to go turn off some water.
Thank you, go get some water turned off. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Councilmember Harris, what have you been up to?
Well, I've been out of state, but before
I
I
can find you for that.
yeah, not here. So I was before I left, I actually had a meeting with Gary Price to discuss our zoning code update. The committee that's being formed is going to be coming up. There'll be something happening. I've had multiple conversations with concerned citizens lately, kind of a flood on that. So I've just had a lot of discussion about city business and questions about things that are going on in our community right now, which in my opinion is a good thing because that means people are actually interested and concerned and voicing their opinions. I'd like for them to all show up here, obviously, but so that's about it. I'm going to cut it short.
Are you ready?
Ready.
Got your water?
Got it.
Here we go. You're up.
We had a PEG meeting scheduled. It didn't come off because we didn't have a quorum, mainly due to the police accident up on 29 out of Kelseyville. Our one board member could not make it. However, I believe today they did the wiring for our cameras. Ed Roby and Dave Dinkins completed that, and within the next couple of weeks, MediaCom hopefully will be down here to get us connected. So maybe by the time we have our next council meeting, fingers crossed, we'll be in business. Had an AVA meeting last week in Lakeport, abandoned vehicle meeting. We have towed approximately 200 abandoned vehicles in the city of Clearlake alone. In October, the 20th and 21st, we have scheduled a vehicle amnesty day within the county. It will be held up at the junkyard on 29 in Kelseyville. It's being coordinated through the Highway Patrol, DMV, and the county code enforcement along with ours, and I'll get together with our code enforcement and get them up to date on what we're doing on that, get them in touch with the proper people. That will be where people can either drive or have towed vehicles that they want to have, they want to get rid of. The DMV will be there to process paperwork, and they can just junk their vehicle and get rid of it. So I think last time they had it, he said they had about 100 of them. Probably about 100 of them the last time they did an amnesty. So this being a more central location, hopefully for the 2 days we'll have more than 100 throughout the county, and hopefully a lot from here.
And this will be publicized, so
Yes,
it's out to the public.
there are press releases going to be put out, and we'll put it on our website, and also press releases to Record Media and to Lake County News.
Lake County News, very good. Is that it?
That's all I got.
Thank you very much, sir. Vice Mayor, it's up to you. let's see if we get it all done in one shot.
All right, I'll make it quick. I don't have any dates here next to everything I've done, but I do know that I did join the latter part of the Lower Lake Fire Department celebration of Measure D, which basically gives a 24/7 coverage for Lower Lake, which I think is fantastic. I believe that our council member Phil Harris was our DJ for the day. He seemed to be having a blast out there. Did join the community center painting. That happened a lot faster than I thought it would. I was working on one wall, turned around, the whole thing was already painted. It must have been going slow. Met with the marketing committee. Unfortunately, similar to Peg, we didn't have a quorum. That was the day we were supposed to review all the photos handed into the photo contest. Since we were not able to make a decision, since we didn't have a quorum on which ones won the photo contest, you will see all of the pictures at the State of the City on August 30th, and you, the public, will get the chance to vote on which pictures win at the photo contest. So I'm excited about that. That creates more engagement for the public, in fact, so that was actually a better way to go. I was also invited from that marketing committee to go to the Art House Gallery, who's been working on the youth mural project. I wish everybody can see all of this artwork, and in fact, you will have the chance to see all the beautiful artwork, and these are from like, I want to say like 4th grade all the way up to 10th graders. The paintings they made went from, some of them were already really good paintings, some of them were very primitive paintings, to all of them being absolutely gorgeous art that I can't wait to see posted up on our business walls, including right here in our city hall. But you'll get to see all of the murals posted again during the State of the City, which I'm sure our city manager will talk to you more about, on August 30th starting at 5 p.m. Lastly, I also went to the Economic Development Summit that happened yesterday at Woodland Community College. It's good to know our economy is not planning on crashing on us in the near future, so as we start progressing here in the city of Clearlake, we know that our progress isn't going to be stifled. That's really good to know, and lots of inspirational ideas on how it is that Lake County and Clearlake can move forward and market itself properly to push our economy forward. And that's it for me.
Thanks, sir. I'll try to be brief so we can get to the meat and potatoes of the reports here. Mr. Paulson.
I stole all this thunder.
Since the project started, I've been going up and looking at the Phillips and 18th project. You might notice if you live up there, it's been striped. It's looking really good. The project is not completed yet and has not been signed off. There's still some finishing up to do. I met with our Public Works Director, who tells me, and I'm sorry if I step on your toes, but he's very excited because he's coming in pretty much at budget. There were some setbacks. They're called rocks. And you can see them under the dirt just about as well as anybody else can. You don't know they're there until you're in the middle of the project. But I do want to commend our staff for staying close to budget and getting that project pushed through pretty quickly. Hearing lots of great things from the residents up in the avenues who are very excited to see that progress, and a portion of our Measure B money that helped to extend that. I'd like to thank all the council members who were able to come down for an emergency meeting on the 16th at 3:30 to provide their support for me to submit a letter of support to Adventist Health Clearlake for a grant for 1.2 plus million with their match up to about 1.3 million for a project they're working on for our homeless. And then something I like to do, and I encourage all of you to do, if you see properties within the city, we had some hearings on those tonight, that are in violation of our Clearlake municipal codes. I'm an advocate of taking pictures, filling out the paperwork, and turning in those properties so they can be cleaned up. And between the 17th and 23rd, I've turned in several reports on that. I encourage all you guys to do the same, as well as anybody out there. It's the only way we're really going to get our city to be safer and cleaner, and we can all work together on that. It shouldn't just be up to our core, 2.5 or so code enforcement officers by the time we factor out everything that they have to do. So that was that. I won't talk about the state of the city yet because I know you're going to cover that. Yes,
Phillips project up there, in addition to our city employees doing a good job and coordinating everything. I want to commend Galati.
Team Gelati.
Gelati, their traffic control and how they handled things, because they had to cut off here and there and redirect traffic was done, in my opinion, in an excellent manner and kept things flowing well. It's a very difficult situation at best, so I would like that word to get back to them through our Public Works Director. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Was it you? It's Nick. Who would have thought? Mr. Folsom, your report, sir.
Okay, well, just to add on to what you said, I've heard nothing but positives with regard to Team Gelati. You know, with a project of that magnitude, which was a little less than $2 million for the construction of that. Typically, you get into something like that, and they're coming at you with change orders, going, well, that's outside the contract, that was outside the contract. We had none of that. The change orders that we had were initiated by the city to get a better product than what we had originally designed, to go a little bit further than we had originally designed, to deal with some of the rocks that we had come across. But often you get a contractor that's just trying to screw you on change orders. That did not happen. We have just
Take advantage.
That's what I meant. That didn't happen, so we've had a really good, positive experience with Team Gelati, so I'm glad that you felt the same way. Also wanted to say thank you to the council for choosing to keep me on a little bit longer. I appreciate that. My wife and I are enjoying being here, so I want to thank you for that.
Don't slow up.
Okay. Go, go, go. What have you done for me lately? Couple of things. You stole most of my thunder, but I'll hit a couple of topics. The Planning Commission did meet last week. They approved the use permit for a remodel and reestablishment of the gas station, which was the former Shell station at Lakeshore Drive and State Highway 53.
Old Highway 53.
Old Highway 53. Thanks for being on top of it tonight, Mayor. So we're looking forward to that project moving forward. We, as just stated, we had a marketing committee meeting, and we'll be, there is a vacancy on the marketing committee. We have applications out. That will be open until September 20th. And then at the September 28th City Council meeting, hopefully we'll have applicants, and then we can put somebody back on that so that we can have quorums. As was mentioned, I attended the Economic Summit along with Councilmember Vice Mayor Sabatier. Got some real good information. They did give a positive forecast for the economy through 2020, so that was a good thing to hear. I did meet with the Clearlake Chamber Board this week, had an update with the Lake County Chamber of Commerce, participated in the paint party as you heard. Again, just want to reiterate, big thank you to Adventist Health. We couldn't have gotten as far as we did without Adventist Health coming out, including the CEO.
I was going to say Mr. Sanchez was there.
David Santos, the CEO, was there. So it was great. Okay, State of the City. It's next week, Wednesday, at the Community Center. The catering will be provided by Chatterbox Catering. It is from 5 to 8. At 5 o'clock, we'll be having essentially an open house for the city. We've also got some of our partner organizations that'll be there, like the Chamber. CC4C will be there with the table to kind of give information out about what they're doing. But if you have questions about Measure V, if you have questions about Public Works in general, if you have questions for the police department, if you want to join the VIPs, if you want to, any question that you have about any different department of the city, we'll have booths there and personnel there to answer those types of questions. Really encourage folks to come out. So from 5 to 6, we'll have that open house, and then from 6 o'clock, we'll have a couple of different speakers. First off will be someone who may be familiar to the City Council, Denise Loosfellow, who is the president of the Clearlake Chamber of Commerce. Another person who may be familiar to you all, Mayor Russ Purdock, and then myself. So really encourage folks to come out. I think it's going to be a great event. We will be asking the citizens to vote on their favorite photo. The top photos we will be blowing up and framing and putting at the various city venues, including City Hall, the Community Center, and the Visitor Center. And I've seen the photos, they're really great, and I think people are going to be very impressed with these. As you also mentioned, we'll have the murals at the event as well, and from the pictures I've seen of those look really great too. This is your last opportunity to vote for me for the Kiss My Clearlake Bass Contest. I'll be at the September 3rd, which is Sunday. I'll be at the Lake County Fair, kissing babies and fish, hopefully, and raising money for the Clearlake Chamber of Commerce, as well as the Lake County Chamber of Commerce. And finally, Councilmember Overton didn't get a chance to plug her event coming up, but the Senior Center annual fundraiser is going to be on September 9th. The Senior Center should have a table at our State of the City event too, so you'll have an opportunity to buy tickets there, if not sooner. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. I like this going in reverse.
If that's what you'd like to do, we can simply do it.
Thank you very much. Do we have any requests for agenda items or issues to bring forward? Not at this moment. Thank you all very much. That was our last item. We are adjourned.